Anyone who's spent even a little bit of time around horses knows they are absolutely magnificent creatures. I mean, they've been working right alongside us for thousands of years. But beneath that familiar everyday surface lies a completely hidden layer of biology and history. When you really get down to it, horses are absolute marvels of evolutionary survival. So let's kick this explainer off with a bit of a curveball, a question that takes us all the way back to the very beginning of their story. What on earth does the earliest ancestor of the horse have in common with a modern Labrador retriever? Now, you might immediately guess something like intelligence or maybe loyalty, but the actual answer is far, far more literal than that. All right, part one, from tiny ancestors to today. To truly understand the modern horse, we have to rewind the clock way back, like 55 million years back. And here's the crazy answer to that earlier question. That ancient ancestor was literally only the size of a Labrador retriever. It is just amazing to picture a tiny little creature that size, eventually evolving into the massive, powerful animals we know today. Fast forward millions of years, and archaeological evidence shows that humans finally began domesticating them around 6,000 years ago. And since those early days of domestication, they've developed this stunning visual diversity. I mean, they can be spotted, patched, or have these gorgeous solid colors with distinct, unique markings exclusively on their faces or their legs. And actually, much like dogs, a horse's specific breed heavily influences those unique colors and patterns. Moving right along to part two, built for ultimate survival. Now, what's really interesting here is that pretty much every single detail of a horse's anatomy is like a finely tuned instrument specifically designed to help them survive in a world full of predators. Let's start with their respiratory system. Horses are what biologists call obligate nasal breathers. So what does that mean? Well, unlike us humans who can seamlessly switch back and forth between breathing through our noses or our mouths, horses physically cannot breathe through their mouths. They rely entirely, 100%, on their noses. Okay, check this out. 10. That is the number of muscles a horse has just to control their ears. To put that into perspective, you and I only have 3. Having 10 distinct muscles allows horses to independently rotate their ears nearly 180 degrees. It's like having built-in radar antennas. They can capture sounds coming from all directions around them without ever even having to turn their heads. And that insane hearing, it works in perfect tandem with their vision. Because their eyes are placed on the sides of their head, horses boast a nearly 360-degree field of vision. But here is the crazy catch. This incredible evolutionary advantage comes with 2 major blind spots. One is directly behind them, and the other is right in front of their faces. So, ironically, a horse literally can't see the grass it's grazing on or that carrot you are holding right in front of its nose. They actually have to move their heads or rely on their super-sensitive lips, whiskers, and sense of smell to figure out what's right in front of them. So when those highly tuned senses finally do detect a predator, their physical response is, well, staggering. If danger approaches, a horse goes from standing perfectly still to delivering a phenomenally powerful kick in just 0.3 seconds. 0.3! Compare that to the average human reaction time, which is about 1.6 seconds. They leave our reaction times completely in the dust. And this intense, hardwired survival instinct, it doesn't take years to develop. It starts immediately. Newborn foals, baby horses, are born relatively mature. In fact, they are up, walking, and even running within just a few hours of hitting the ground. Because they're most vulnerable to predators right after birth, evolution basically dictated that they absolutely must be able to flee from danger right out of the gate. Which brings us to part 3, the secret to sleeping standing. We've established that horses are constantly on high alert, right? But they still gotta rest. Have you ever wondered how a massive 1,000-pound animal can just fall asleep on its feet? It is all thanks to a biological marvel called the stay apparatus. This is a highly unique built-in system of tendons and ligaments that essentially locks a horse's legs into a standing position. It lets them totally relax their muscles without tipping over, so they can serve energy while staying constantly ready to bolt if danger shows up. But actually, scratch that whole "they never lay down" idea. It is a total myth. While they do use that stay apparatus to do a ton of resting on their feet, they absolutely do lay down for short periods every single day. In fact, laying down is physically required for them to achieve their deepest, most restorative levels of sleep. But what's truly mind-blowing here is just how little time they actually spend asleep. On average, a horse only sleeps for about 2.5 hours per day, just 2.5 hours. The other 21.5 hours, they are actively awake,
grazing, or just using that stay apparatus to lightly rest while remaining standing and completely alert to the world around them. Let's dive into our final section. Part 4, Hidden Intelligence and Herd Life. So, we've seen their physical traits are astounding, but their cognitive abilities are just as impressive. Far from being simple, driven by instinct creatures, horses are highly intelligent. Check this out. If you've ever trained a pet dog using positive reinforcement or clicker training, you can actually use the exact same methods to teach a horse complex tasks. Their brains are highly receptive to that kind of structured, positive learning. To really show you the depth of their cognitive abilities, researchers have proven that horses can explicitly communicate their specific personal needs to humans. In one absolutely remarkable study, horses literally learned to tell their handlers whether they wanted a blanket put on them or taken off simply by touching specific symbols on a board. I mean, that is an incredibly high level of comprehension and communication. And it's not just about interacting with humans. They form profoundly complex social bonds within their own herds. Being prey animals, they naturally find safety in numbers, but it's not just some random grouping of animals. They use those finely tuned senses to recognize familiar faces, and they explicitly choose to spend time with those they formed actual, genuine friendships with. Even better, they actively look out for one another. Within a herd, one horse will purposefully take a shift standing guard, watching out for predators, just so their friends have a safe opportunity to eat, relax, and get those critical few hours of deep sleep. So I really hope this explainer leaves you with a completely new perspective on the hidden, brilliant world of horses. From their tiny, Labrador-sized ancestors to their 360-degree vision and crazy reaction times, they are an absolute masterclass in evolution. But it does beg a much bigger question, doesn't it? If the horse is hiding millions of years of complex evolutionary secrets right in plain sight, what other familiar animals in our everyday lives are harboring ancient superpowers that we just completely take for granted? Something to think about next time you offer a horse a carrot. Just, remember to hold it where they can actually see the thing. Thanks for joining me on this one.